Today I wanted to talk about Christian Koloko and what he offers the Lakers. So at the time of the recording, he is not currently cleared, but he should be when you guys are seeing this video. So I hope you guys enjoy. Make sure you subscribe to the Basketball Bulletin for all of your NBA coverage year round. That being said, we have this awesome article that we're going to cover. We're also going to talk about some grading for this guy and what you can expect from him in a Lakers uniform. Does he also fit the need that the Lakers have currently at the time of the recording in terms of roster build, etc.? So let's dive into this. So huge shout out to Lakers Nation for the article. There's maybe somebody that's on this channel, co-owner of this channel, that may or may not be a part of Lakers Nation. Anyway, the Los Angeles Lakers made an intriguing addition recently, signing Christian Koloko to a two-way contract, a second-round pick in 2022. Koloko was waived by the Raptors and placed on the NBA's fitness to play list after the discovery of blood clots that threatened to end his career. As it currently stands, Koloko has yet to be cleared by the panel, but the Lakers believe that clearance will eventually come and are banking on the potential of the defensive-minded 7-footer. With the regular season around the corner, it now looks as if a decision will be coming soon. So at the time of the recording, the NBA season starts tomorrow. So the Lakers will be playing their first game tomorrow. And we've seen them go through the entirety of preseason. First thing on Koloko, it's unfortunate we didn't get to see him in preseason. I thought that would have been a really good proving ground for him and just kind of just see what he looks like, maybe knock off a little bit of rust. Earlier this offseason, a few weeks ago, there was a video of him and JaVale McGee in the gym working out that you guys can see right here. And I thought he looked really good. JaVale looks massive, by the way, but I thought Koloko looked pretty good. So let's go ahead and keep on going here. The main thing, though, if you're not keeping track, is that the NBA has to get this right. They've got to be extremely careful, because if they clear him to play and anything happens, then they are held liable for that. So they've got to make sure they get this right. So I understand it. And there's no timetable on this. He could be cleared. I mean, when you guys are seeing this, he should be cleared already. But in theory, they could take 3 months. They could take 6 months. They could take 5 years if they wanted. They probably wouldn't do that, obviously, but they could take however long they feel necessary to see that he is fit to play. So that is the objective here, getting him out there whenever he is fully capable of doing so. So the Lakers really need more big man depth, and that was part of the reason that they kept Traore and Koloko on two-way contracts, because while they can't outright go out there and just sign a big man, if you don't know, basically their roster is full, and if you waive somebody, the money stays on your books. So if they were to sign somebody after waiving somebody, they'd be pushed into another tier of the apron. They basically can't do that. The only way for them to get a big is to either trade for one or trade away some of these guys like a Cam Reddish or a Maxwell Lewis or something like that, and then not take a player back. So they'd have to give up draft compensation for that and then have that roster space open, and then they can sign another player. So what they've been doing is they've been using their two-way spots, and they recently brought in our boy Quincy Olivari. I think he absolutely deserved it, but at the expense of Colin Castleton. I thought Colin was pretty underwhelming personally, but I did really like his skill set. A mobile big that can stretch the floor a little bit. He flashed a tiny bit of three-point shooting, obviously not enough, but flashed it a little bit. Also, his primary skill is his passing and ball moving. I could see him fitting really well on a team that could use a floor spacing big that can play on a 5-out offense and dribble handoff and pass the ball around. He's going to be really good in that type of system. But unfortunately for the Lakers, they really need more defensive centers, and particularly a big burly one, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, they let him go, brought in Quincy. But part of that was because they have optimism that Koloko is about to get cleared. So they know something we don't, or they feel like they know something we don't, and that Koloko is about to get cleared. So again, time of the recording, he is cleared, but or he isn't, but he will be when you guys see this. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. Rob Pelinka says the Lakers are excited about what Christian Koloko can bring. The Lakers undoubtedly believe Christian Koloko as someone who can have an impact, perhaps as soon as a season if he is ultimately cleared. Rob Pelinka recently discussed this, noting that the Lakers saw a lot of promise in him during his draft process. We have a lot of optimism in him if he's cleared. A 7'5" wingspan, 7'1" height. I think we saw a lot of promise in him when we scouted him when he was at Arizona and was almost a first-round pick. So to get a player like that we can bring along and develop and may even impact us this year when we get cleared is something we're really excited about. So that is basically what's going on with the Koloko situation. I wanted to talk about him and his grading and how he works as a player for the roster. So like I said, the primary thing that most people believe the Lakers need is a bruising center, somebody that can go out there and just withstand punishment against some of the bigger centers around the league. AD is a massive human being, but there's about 5 or 6 guys in the league that can really give AD trouble. And, you'd want to have another center alongside him. Maybe he could play the 4. Maybe you have another better backup center because Jackson Hayes is not great, but you know, there's a lot of different reasons why you'd be looking for another center on this roster, basically. So here's a look at Koloko from one of the best accounts on Twitter, in my opinion. Graduate Basketball is an amazing Twitter account follow if you guys haven't already. He specifically for the Lakers anyway. I don't know if he does this for most other teams, but what he does is he watches every single game and logs every single set/play that the team runs, and he has different models to account for how players are producing on the offensive and defensive sides of the floor, and he grades them all out. So super duper detailed stuff, and absolutely is amazing at what he does. So here's a look at what he gave Koloko. So yeah, he goes through and he looks at other players too whenever they're going to be on the way to the Lakers, and I'm pretty sure he's got a bigger grading scale than just the Lakers because he always has these specific stats for a bunch of players that are non-Lakers anyway. But here's Koloko's impact data, his one season of play in the NBA: strong defense and a very negative on the offensive side. His defensive strengths via grades among rotation mobile bigs from 2013 to 2024. So in that period, with the tracking of this, he got an A on pretty much everything across the board as a mobile big defensive center. So Christian Koloko is a type of defensive center you could really build an offense around. And I think that that is a key thing for him. He does need time to develop. He's only played one season in the NBA up to now. He was definitely drafted lower than I think most people thought he would go, but he is somebody that has defensive upside, and it's going to be immediately showing. It's going to pay off just right then and there. Now, the tricky thing is, like I've said a couple of times, the Lakers want a bigger center like Jonas Valanciunas, things like that. The problem is that with him, he stands about 7 foot, 7'1", about 220, 230 as well. So basically, the wingspan may be a little different, but basically, just looking at him, he's going to look a lot like Jackson Hayes out there in terms of stature and size. And Jackson is not a big dude. But that being said, Koloko's got a far better defensive upside, so he's going to be able to come across and knock away a few shots, help you out in that rotation, help defense, rim protection, defensive playmaking, all A grades. So he's going to be an amazing defensive tool to have as an option. And here's how things look for him, though, on the offensive side. Offensively, Koloko that season was awful at the rim, awful, from the second level, and awful from the three. The three is whatever. Winning offensive rebound battles at a low rate, not impacting the game at all with passing, all on very easy shots overall. The data shows a disastrous offensive year. So what I would say is, if you wanted to be optimistic about the offensive side for Koloko, first things first, he's young. Second thing, he is going to be in a system where he's going to get very, very easy looks. Now, that is accounted for here. He got easy looks in Toronto, but you'd imagine that on a team with Anthony Davis, LeBron James out there, even D'Lo and AR setting him up sometimes, he should get very easy looks, and attention is not going to be paid his way. They can run some stuff for this guy and get him probably 4 to 6 easy points a game, and the rest of it's going to be just kind of effort, mobility, cleanup around there. The downside is, though, he did say he wasn't really pushing for those offensive rebounds. I don't know if that's a motor thing or if it's just our team is not great thing. A lot of times guys get on teams around other star players or around star players in general and try to bring more of their effort out there. Also, Koloko's been in a position where he hasn't been in the league for the last couple of years, hasn't been able to really play, and is obviously going to be trying to get a better contract too. So I think he's going to go out there and give you everything he has. So I'm not worried about him fighting for offensive rebounds or the way that he's going to be used offensively on this team in general. But it is worth note that he just hasn't been a positive on the offensive side of the court. And one could question, with the firepower that the Lakers have, if they even need an offensive guy out there. You know where it would get tricky is, in theory, if they had him on the roster and he was able to play and all that stuff, or is able to play, it gets tricky when you have guys like him, AD, who's obviously a major plus on the offense. Don't get me wrong, but let me just follow me here. You got him, AD, you got Vando. Spacing is going to be pretty bad. It's going to put a lot of pressure on, Vando and Anthony Davis to take and make those 3-point shots as well. You probably just subtract Anthony Davis from this. You probably would have a hellacious defense if you put him out there with Vando, but how much does the offense tank? That's the question too, because you've still got to be able to score at a high enough clip to make that defense matter, right? But I think you could be positive with the defensive playmaking, getting out there, forcing fast breaks, things like that. I think that's where the positive side is. So nonetheless, though, just getting another defensive center on this roster will be huge, because I don't think that was Castleton. I don't think that's Traore. I think he's got some solid chops, but I don't think it's him. I don't think it's Hayes. Obviously, it's not Wood. So getting another defensive big man out there to where Anthony doesn't have to be the only last line defender on the entire roster is huge. But the problem is, and this is not really a huge short-term issue, but a long-term issue, is that being on a two-way contract, he's not eligible to play more than, I believe, 55 games in the year. So that's going to be, and I don't think they can play in the postseason as well. So that's going to be something to look for with this guy, is how much is he able to even play for the team? And what happens when it becomes time to make a decision? Are they going to find a way to elevate him? Will he play good enough to be elevated to a full roster spot? But like I said earlier, in order to do that, a space needs to be cleared, because they literally have no spots on the roster open to even elevate one of their two-way guys up. So that's another thing too. Really what I think is going to happen with the Lakers, they're going to trial Koloko. They saw something in him a few years ago when he was on the draft. They think that, or a couple years ago in the draft, man, actually, he got drafted just literally 2 years ago. That's unfortunate. There's so much here that we haven't really seen yet. I didn't even realize it was 22. I thought it was 21. It's not a huge difference, but yeah, there's still so much we haven't seen here. They liked him. They liked him a lot in that draft period. But that being said, I think they're going to trial him. They're going to see how he looks, see how he works. Like I said, that's unfortunate he didn't get a chance to do that in preseason. That would have been great. But I think they're going to trial him, see how he looks. Third time saying it, and go from there and make a decision. If he is somebody that they feel super confident and comfortable with, I don't think they'll go out there and try to force a trade for another center. But if he's not living up to what they thought he would be, then they will go out there and try to make a trade for another center. There are several popular names on the market, like Walker Kessler. I don't see us walking away with him, unfortunately, if you're a Lakers fan. But I do think that they can go out there and get somebody like Jonas Valanciunas, who, ironically enough, the Lakers played out of games last season when they played against the Pelicans, so it's not great. But I think really what you're looking for with the Lakers, regardless of how great on defense or offense a player is, what you're looking for is just an innings eater, a big man that can go out there for 15 minutes or so and just body up a bit, get you a couple rebounds, things like that, can fight a little bit, especially against some of these guys like Sengun that we're looking at on the little highlight there in the corner. Jokic every now and again, they can just body up with some of these guys. So Anthony doesn't have to be the guy bodying up and protecting the rim. So you free him up to really be an off-ball defensive menace. So that being said, what do you guys think about Koloko? Like I said, time of the recording, he isn't, but by now he should be able to play. What are you looking for? Post down below 3 things you want to see the Lakers do with Koloko this year. And if you want to see more Lakers content, I recorded this video on the screen now that you can see right now.